Can Ubisoft's Watch Dogs series be saved? This is a question I wanted to take a look at today, and I do believe that in order to actually answer this question, you have to briefly address what went wrong with Watch Dogs. I do think this could be a whole other video that I'll cover in the future, getting really in-depth on each element, but when it comes down to it, people felt lied to about Watch Dogs 1. People felt that Watch Dogs 2 was nothing like 1, so the people who hated 1 kinda liked 2, and a lot of the people who liked 1 didn't like 2 at all, and then Watch Dogs Legion didn't really know how to commit to what it wanted to be. It wanted to be this open world experience where you could play as anybody, but it ended up being very aimless because of it, where none of the characters really had any sort of, I would say, personality for the most part, to the point where they had to go back and retroactively take some of the best characters from previous games and push them into Legion. So basically, Watch Dogs is a series that was never able to commit to what it wanted to be. You know, Assassin's Creed, people have blamed the same kind of, mishmash and flip-flopping that Watch Dogs has done on Assassin's Creed as well. But at least Assassin's Creed usually followed some of the same core elements, and there were different styles of games, and it was so long running that it was able to actually pump out a lot of good games in there, regardless of what you think of the most recent ones. With Watch Dogs, they took some criticism with the first game, and they just kind of jumped ship. They did not know what to do. They latched onto the branding, but the characters are very uneven and different in the sequels, and so it was one of these things where Watch Dogs just didn't really find its audience as much as it could have, with reportedly Watch Dogs Legion just being a commercial flop in general. And again, like I said, they had to go back and bring these old characters in just to try and drum up interest. So Watch Dogs has reportedly been dead for a little while. Leaker X Jonathan, who we talked about the other day in our Watch Dogs is Dead video, kind of confirmed that and has had a lot of insider info and a track record of being right, actually, when it comes to Ubisoft games. So I wouldn't be surprised, but when it comes to Ubisoft, most of the time, nothing is really dead forever. Splinter Cell fans are right now rolling in their grave as I say that, but even a project like that, it does look like is going to re-emerge at some point in the future, and the characters were still used in pop-up crossovers. It's not the same as a game, but it did go to show that there was at least still a little bit of interest in that IP. And something actually happened the other day that showed that there was still a little bit of interest in the Ubisoft Watch Dogs IP that gave me a little bit of hope for the future that I do want to talk about today as we ask the question, can it be saved? If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content. It means the world to me, really trying to grow this channel this year. And also, I do have another channel, JayRPG, where I make RPG videos. If you want to check that out, that'll be in the links down below in the description. My question of the day for you, by the way, is do you have a favorite Watch Dogs game? And if you haven't played these games and you don't care, you're just watching it because you support my channel, first off, thank you. But secondly, do you have a favorite Ubisoft game in general, ever? And any of their series, anything? I'm interested to know what it is and why, because it gives me more games to check out, lets me get to know you. Another possible future video could just be diving into the books of Watch Dogs, and that's actually where this information came from, and it surprised me quite a bit, because a couple years ago there was actually a Watch Dogs inspired manga. Now that manga was not fully translated to English at the time. I don't know why, your guess would be as good as mine. I know it does take a little while for mangas to be complete and for translations to happen, but really it's been fan translated for a couple years, and that's Watch Dogs Tokyo. Now it's something that flew under the radar for me. I never even knew about its existence, but I did know that there were Watch Dogs novels, so I guess manga is the next, natural step. Something that I thought was really interesting about this, though, is that Watch Dogs Tokyo is now being officially printed for English audiences. It's something that I'm going to be picking up in the next couple days, which they said will be at bookstores, and this is a story following the adventures of Detective Goda and the hacktivist Stainless Steel Bat as they investigate the collusion between politicians, Yakuza, and the corporation behind a smart city grid used to prevent natural disasters and criminality. And it focuses on a JCTOS, like a Japanese version of CTOS, and like obviously the title takes place in Tokyo. Now what surprised me about this was not just that they put the effort into translating it, which already for a dead series is a little interesting to me personally, but the fact that they actually went on to animate an entire trailer based off of the manga and its characters and the actual art in it, with some moving art as well, that they showed on Twitter and in a couple of other places, which you will obviously have seen in the video. That to me is already a good sign, because if you didn't care about your IP at all, you would just, even if this was in the works, you'd just dump the book and say, hey, look, here's a book. We'll probably make some money off of these manga fans from this, and maybe there's a little crossover, and there you go. Maybe we'll also pick up some new fans in the bookstore, and then they'll go on to buy a couple copies digitally, something like that. That's like your best case scenario, right? But when you're actually still marketing this, when you're still showing this off, I do think that that's a good sign. I do also think that there is a lot of interest, at least from YouTube personalities, which I don't really consider myself, but like people on this website in Watch Dogs. I've seen more and more videos popping up. I've seen more and more people covering it, and it does seem like there's a little bit of a resurgence in interest in the game. I've even seen more people on social media going back and replaying the original game. Now, what would it take to actually save Watch Dogs? I think first off, it might take more than Ubisoft is willing to do. This is my personal opinion, and I want to explain why. Ubisoft, when it hits a roadblock, usually, like I've said before, either tries to morph and change their series into something totally different, or it just scraps it for years. Splinter Cell basically got shut down for being commercially not viable enough to them. It just didn't make them enough money, to the point where Sam Fisher was only showing up occasionally in crossovers like with Ghost Recon, which, as a huge fan of Splinter Cell, was fun to see, but it's not the same as a game. Prince of Persia basically got beaten up and left in an alley to rot for a long time, and now it's finally making a comeback. So, I don't think when it comes to Ubisoft games that when they kill a franchise that it's usually dead forever. But I do think with Ubisoft, they don't seem to want to put effort into reviving their games. When it came to something like Assassin's Creed, it was their bread and butter. It was their main franchise up there with Just Dance. So of course they were going to pursue reviving it. When sales and interest was kind of slumping with Unity and Syndicate, they were going to put money, time, and effort into reviving the image of that game series, and now there's reportedly at least 7 projects in the works. But with a lot of their smaller series that either never caught on or did catch on, like Prince of Persia and obviously Splinter Cell, but then interest faded over time due to how Ubisoft was handling it, they didn't want to put that effort into bringing it back. And that's my concern with Watch Dogs, because I do believe that if you have a solid direction for a new game, whether it be inspired by the books or not that already exist, you could do more with this franchise and make it good. This series is very uneven, and I want to make videos talking about each game again as well, but when it comes down to it, I thought 1 was a very gritty, down-to-earth, near-future game about the worries of government surveillance, of company surveillance, of technology controlling lives. It was a little bit like Black Mirror, but it also involved a pretty unhinged protagonist that was pretty much just a vigilante who killed people. A lot of people seem to misunderstand that character, think he's just wooden and sucks and that there's nothing to him. I do believe that there's a lot beneath the surface when it comes to Aiden Pearce, but regardless, that's probably a video for another day as well, because it would just take us off on a tangent. When Watch Dogs 2 came out, they completely flipped the script. They wanted to go more the Ezio route of being kind of a funny, charming protagonist, but they didn't really seem to know how to do it. So Marcus Holloway just comes off as a little bland. He doesn't really seem to have a lot of character to him, at least in the very first half of the game. He starts to get better in the second half, but in the first half of the game, there's really not much to Marcus other than just he's the player insert. And then when it came to Watch Dogs Legion, they took that times a billion. They didn't even have it be a focused character, they just let you be whoever you wanted and made the dialogue very generic. And then they realized, oh, we need memorable characters, so that's why they brought back Aiden and Wrench. And that's where I think the problem is here, is Ubisoft keeps chasing trends and trying to turn the Watch Dogs series and games into something it's not. Watch Dogs is not a super duper funny hipster simulator. And I think that as they went on further and further, they thought that that was what they had to do to make Watch Dogs viable, but I really don't think it is. You know, games like GTA, they are able to have humor, they are able to actually have parodies and social commentary, you know, still be a little funny, but also tackle serious things as well when they want to do so. It doesn't seem like with Ubisoft, they ever really knew which direction to take Watch Dogs. Did they want it to be this dark, serious, you know, universe, or did they want it to be like a more happy parody, yeah, the government and these corporations suck, but like we've got the hipster hacktivists here to save the day and bright colors and, you know, things going on all the time on your screen. They didn't know which direction they wanted to go, which made it inconsistent. I think that in order to save Watch Dogs, you need to have some kind of consistency. Personally, when you go into Legion, it's a little far in the future for me. Now, it's probably only 2029 or 2030, but they did jump a lot of years between Watch Dogs 2 and that game. I believe about 13 or 14 years. So it was a bit much. It seemed like they wanted the series to be more and more outlandish, and that never really connected with players for the most part. Not every Watch Dogs game needs to be a serious crime drama, the same way that not every Assassin's Creed game needs to cover the same character, but I do believe that there are characters and interesting stories in this universe that you could cover if you wanted to. Going back and seeing what Aiden Pearce was doing as the Fox, either in between Watch Dogs 1 and 2 or even in between 2 and Legion, would be very interesting. There are some novels, like I said, set in that time, but actually being able to play through some of these events or other events would be really cool because this is a vigilante story. Seeing other characters pop up who are inspired by that character or who are even doing their own thing but actually have a narrative direction and focus is the other thing that you would need to do to save this series. Not all of the good assassins in Assassin's Creed are Ezio, but the best assassins have a clear narrative focus and they actually have a story that makes sense, is character driven, while giving the player control and agency, and it ends up being a fun video game and a fun story in that game. Whether it's more serious or more lighthearted, it doesn't matter, they pick the character to fit the tone. That's what Watch Dogs needs. It doesn't need things like the reportedly scrapped Battle Royale game. Nobody was asking for that. It doesn't need more ADHD, flying in your face colors all the time, woohoo happy world. It doesn't really need that, unless that fits the character that you're playing, and the story is succinctly and intelligently written, and the world is built around it. We shouldn't have a hodgepodge series where you have to pick between what's worst out of each one, where you're like, well, Watch Dogs 1 probably has one of the better stories, but, you know, it doesn't have the best hacking because CTOS 2 in Watch Dogs 2 is better. But then in Legion, you know, you have more control over things. Like, you shouldn't have to do this in order to find out which game you enjoy the most of, oh, well, what mixed bag do I pick? These games need more direction, better marketing. They need a team on them that knows what they want to do. Ubisoft needs to commit to some kind of direction before they start branching out again and trying to turn Watch Dogs into something else entirely, which is what their silly Battle Royale idea would have done. I just don't understand how a multi-billion-dollar company can take such a unique concept of a world with hacking anything, you know, messing around with this world, vigilantes, copycats, killers, saviors, devils, all of this stuff, surveillance states. How can they take those things, those ideas, and just squander them? It's just mind-boggling to me. And it's why I'm happy to see that there is a new manga with Watch Dogs Tokyo. It is something I will be checking out, because it does seem like that actually has a clear direction and people enjoyed it. But Watch Dogs needs a direction. It needs some kind of focus, at least on one or two central protagonists for a couple of entries in order to find its footing, and it needs better marketing and management. I don't really personally think Ubisoft is going to be willing to do those things, but but that's what I think it would take to save Watch Dogs. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Let me know your favorite Ubisoft game, like I said. Let me know what you would do to save Watch Dogs, or if you even would. I'm interested to hear that. And also, if you want to support this channel, we have other channels like JayRPG, where I make RPG videos. We have channels as well like Magical Jill, my wife's channel, where we do anime videos. We have channels like Degenerate Plays, where we play through games. I'd love to play a Watch Dogs game at some point, so the sky's the limit. And we also do have our own merch store, CosmoBunny.shop, where you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase. You can also use that code on Fortnite as our Fortnite creator code. But on CosmoBunny.shop, we sell manga and comic book resin pieces, which are from damaged comic books and manga that were unable to be sold at stores. We take them, we recycle some of the paper, we turn them into something cool and unique and fun for your home and transformative, and then what we do is we recycle the rest of the paper. So we prevent a lot of that stuff here in Minnesota from going into landfills. We try and make something cool for your home, and my wife Jill also makes handmade jewelry over there as well, and I do know that she does commissions as well if you reach out to her. So lots of fun stuff over there that's full of heart, and I really, really enjoy. And hey, I love my wife, and it goes to help support the channel. So I appreciate you very much. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.